Hello guys, Craig Frost here again with another JuicyTuts tutorial, and today we're inside After Effects because I've realized that I've used After Effects a few times in videos in the past, yet I've not actually done any tutorials about After Effects per se on its own. I mean, I've done Dynamic Link, which was Premiere to After Effects, but I've not actually done After Effects on its own, and people have asked me a few times about how to do things in After Effects. So I thought what might be good, and maybe I can do this with other software that I do as well, but is do a little training series. So like today could be the introduction into After Effects, so you have a complete guide to the basics of After Effects. So we'll start now. So hopefully you know how to open After Effects. If not, you just click on the After Effects dock or wherever you have it installed on Windows. Anyway, so when you open After Effects, you get to this window. It doesn't matter which version you're using, they're all practically the same. I'm using CS6, but whether you're using CC or CS2 or whatever, it's all about the same. Okay, so this is your standard layout here. Now let me take you through the windows. Up here in the top left, this is your project window. This is where all the assets and your media files and everything will be imported before you use them in the project. Okay, so this is your composition window. So this is where the actual composition will show, like your video footage and everything. And down here, just like in Premiere, you have a timeline. Only it works slightly different in that every asset has its own track on the timeline, but we'll get to that. Okay, so we'll get to importing assets. So you come up to, you can either go to File, Import, and then import some files or multiple files or an Adobe. You get the idea. You can import practically any file into After Effects. They're all supported, like TIFFs, PNGs, JPEGs, PSDs, and then all your video footage files like H.264 files, MP4s, MOV. Everything seems to be supported practically. There are a few exceptions. So you can either go up there to import, you can either right click to import, or you can simply double click inside the project window to import. Another way you can do it is simply, if you have a folder open, this works on Windows as well, you can just highlight the media you want and just drag it in to your project window. Okay, so that's an easy way to do it. So now I have these three video footage files here. If you highlight them, the inspector window comes up and shows you what they are and their frame rates and their size and everything. It's really exciting. So from the project panel you can see all this kind of stuff. Now we want to make a new composition. Now to do that you can either come up to File, Composition, New Composition. You can click this button down here to create a new composition, or you can simply drag a video file onto the composition, what do you call it, button I guess, and it will then create a composition based on these settings at the top here of your footage. So if I went to Composition, New Composition, I'd need to give it the dimensions and the frame rate and how long I want the composition to be. However, if I drag a file onto New Composition, it will create a composition to that setting, so it's exactly the length of the footage and it's exactly the size of the footage. Now I've accidentally got two views set up here, but you'll have one view like this. So inside the composition window you have all these different kind of options. So you can choose the resolution of your video playback. So at the moment it's on full, but if you want faster playback you can have half, third, quarter, etc. So you see the image quality degrades a little bit. Okay, so also we've got fast previews ticked, which is the adaptive resolution. That is how come when I scrub through, the resolution drops just to keep the speed up. But if I turn that off, it will always play in the quality that we have selected on this resolution bit. I feel like I should have prepared this tutorial a bit more, but we're getting through it. So this is your composition window. This is where you have all the settings for the footage, but this resolution is only for previewing. It will always export in your resolution settings when we come to rendering, which will be later in the series. Okay, so we've got a new composition, we've done the settings, we dragged the video in, we've got a new composition here. We talked about the composition window. Now this is the timeline window. So each asset, just like in Photoshop or Premiere, will have its own, well, not in Premiere, but each asset will have its own layer. So if I drag another video clip in, we can place it above that layer and it now goes on top. But of course if we turn it off, there's a layer underneath. Okay, So all this works in layers. It's a lot like Photoshop, only it has a time value as well as a layer value, because obviously video goes forward in time. Okay, so we'll just get rid of this for now. Okay, so we've done that. We've got it on the timeline. Up here on the right here, you got some extra panels, and these can all be configured from your window options that you tick. Here we have something called a RAM preview. Okay, now what this does is, you'll notice if I press play spacebar to play this video, it's not quite real time, but you see this green line here is rendering each frame. So then if I come back to play it, it's a lot smoother. Well, a RAM preview will put into the RAM the render files for your timeline, and then when you come back to play them again, they'll already be there preloaded to play, so it'll be a lot smoother. Okay, I hope that made sense. So it's not like real-time playback like in Premiere. It has to render each frame separately. This is getting a bit confusing. I feel like I haven't prepared enough, but we're getting there. We're getting through it, okay? Okay, so I've got some notes on the left here on my other screen, which I'm just looking at. So we've done RAM preview, composition resolution. Oh, you can also zoom this composition window with this little toggle here. So at the moment it's at 50%, which is fit up to 100%, which means no matter what size the window is, the video will always try to fit to the screen. But if you want to see it at full 100%, you can just click that. You can hold spacebar down, which will bring up the little hand icon, or you can click it up here, and then you can drag around the picture. Okay, but that's not actually moving it in the composition, because if you move it in the composition, it would all go off. But with the hand icon, you're moving the whole canvas around, as it were. Right, okay, so we've done that. We've done the composition zoom. We talked about the layout of the panels slightly. This is how it's defaultly laid out, but you can change this by just simply dragging like I did then to resize areas. And if you ever want to, you also have workspace layouts up here, which are preset for different kind of working, but on standard. And if you mess it up, you can also go up to window workspace and then just reset the current workspace, and it will reset it back to the default layout. Okay, now with each of these panels as well, if you come over them and press the tilde key on the keyboard, that panel will become full screen. It's just wherever your mouse is hovering over will make that panel come full screen, which is quite a useful tool for various different reasons when you come through it. Okay, so this is basically it for the introduction. This is how to get your footage from your computer into After Effects ready to work, and this is how the interface is laid out. Okay, so you can have your footage down here, you can scrub through it, and in the next episode we'll get on to applying some effects to this footage, and then later in the series we'll talk about more about compositing projects and stuff like that. So this has been a really bad tutorial. I'm sorry about that, but I hope it's useful to some of you, and hopefully I remember to press record. I don't actually remember pressing record, oh well. But there you go. Make sure you tune into part 2 where we talk about effects and we'll get into a bit more interesting stuff. But I know After Effects is a bit daunting to begin with, but once you understand it, it's pretty simple really. If you've used Photoshop or any video editor before, it's pretty similar in its approach. It's just some things are laid out a bit differently because it has to be. Like each asset has to have its own track in the timeline, because as you'll see later in the series, when you're compositing things, you need to have those different layers so you can turn them on, off, you can layer things up to make stuff look right. But we'll get to that later. Thanks for watching. Remember to give the video a like if you did like it, or if you just feel sorry for me, and leave a comment as well, and tune in for part 2, which will be coming up pretty soon. Okay, so thanks for watching. Bye.